I just wanted to say something about the Mandela effect. I hear various explanations about what it can be. Usually it's false memories and parallel universes. Regarding the instances of spelling changes, these would indicate the influence of an intellect because spelling is orderly information formulated by a mind, and information never originates outside of intellect. I believe the same could be said about alterations of specific elements in a logo. So I'm not convinced the Mandela effect can be summed up as just a glitch in the universal matrix, as some might conclude. I am compelled to think the Mandela effect could be a person or a group possibly editing history. I suppose what may have happened could have been the following. Small spelling changes would be deemed as a low-risk edit to start with to gauge the severity of resulting effects, and if the results were favorable, afterwards increasingly drastic changes would be introduced to test the limits. When I first noticed the change, it was J.C. Penney, and that was spelled J-C-P-E-N-N-Y. I had a very specific memory of this because I was walking through the parking lot to go into J.C. Penney, and I was looking up at the sign, and there was somebody walking with me, and I said to them, J.C. Penney could stand for Jesus Christ Penny. I said that because I was thinking of a copper 1-cent coin called a penny, which is spelled P-E-N-N-Y. So currently, the spelling of J.C. Penney includes an extra E before the last letter Y. I would then and do now phonetically regard this spelling as Penay, not Penny. So the spelling change of J.C. Penney got my attention. I absolutely knew it was different than what I remembered, precisely because of what I was thinking when I looked at the J.C. Penney sign and then made the comment about J.C. Penney standing for Jesus Christ Penny. If it was spelled J.C. Penay as it is now, it would be strange for me to say J.C. Penay could stand for Jesus Christ Penny. I would not have said that under that scenario, and I regard that as being somewhat of a stupid thing to say. I strongly do not think the Mandela effect should be regarded as a phenomenon best summed up as collective false memories. Of course, people do misremember things, we all do it sometime, but there are things in life that you know without a doubt. You know what left and right is, and you don't need physical or historical proof to verify it. If up and down changes, you would surely know it changed. Imagine it changes and people are telling you there's no proof that what is above was ever called up, and historically anything above was always called down. I believe the Mandela effect appears to be actual changes to history, and that some people are remembering things the way they were before they did in fact change. The concept is that when history change does happen, that change now appears to have always been the original scenario. Therefore, it's somewhat obtuse for some to answer this topic by saying it's always been J.C. Penney, or it's always been Cap'n Crunch. I think it was 2018 when I went to go talk to an employee of J.C. Penney, and I asked him, who had worked there for like 11 years, what he thought about the spelling of J.C. Penney. He was oblivious to it and unaffected by my account of what I thought happened. It does seem as though some people have no reaction to changes. Either they never really paid attention to know the difference in the first place, which I think should be unlikely for the J.C. Penney employee who worked there after 11 years, looking at it from day to day, or they didn't want to bother with the thought process about it, or they might be uncomfortable entertaining the possibility of it, or they think it's impossible and just accept what they see as proof that it simply is what it's always been. Or perhaps some people might be influenced by historical changes where others are not. Could it be that because the J.C. Penney employee had worked there, that he was somewhat integrated into the change, whereas because I did not work there, I was not directly influenced by the change? I could be wrong about that, but what is happening? Something else I do not buy into is the alternate universes, such that there would be multiple versions of yourself performing every possible alternate decision. I do believe the King James Bible is the Word of God, and because of this, it does shape my opinion about the multiverse paradigm, specifically because of original sin. This idea is seemingly completely off the radar of discussion, oddly enough. What do you think of the multiple alternate universes concept as a Christian? Does it seem plausible that in another universe, Adam and Eve did not eat the forbidden fruit and Jesus did not have to save humanity? Do you think there's an alternate universe where you go to heaven and another one where you go to hell? I don't think so. I therefore disregard this as a possibility. I tend to conclude there is a person or group of people making changes to history, and the changes indicate more than a passing familiarity with Western culture, which brings me to the question, what about other cultures around the world? What is the ratio of changes they are experiencing compared to what we have in the United States? Any lack of changes in a given culture would likely be due to the unfamiliarity of that culture. This could be a clue about the person or group of people behind the Mandela effect changes, since they appear to have a detailed comprehension of Western culture. The instance of Captain Crunch changing to Cap'n Crunch is a particularly Western contraction that should be expected from Generation X and up, yet now originates from 1963. I'm aware of changes in the King James Bible. It makes sense that whoever is making these changes would want to test the changes with the King James Version Bible in particular. That was a very bad idea, but I understand why they would want to do that, as it is understood to be the very word of God, and as unbelievers, they would want to test that. Again, that was a very bad idea because God is not to be toyed with whatsoever. I know that God was, is, and will be fully aware of these changes infinitely before they happen and are prepared for them. So far, I would conclude that these changes are originating from people fairly familiar with Western culture. They might not be far removed from being contemporaneous and are not Christians.